and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am going to be posting my free monthly Paint with Paige videos on my YouTube as well as Instagram because Instagram recently took away the ability to pause videos. And a lot of you guys like to pause the videos if you're needing more time on a certain step or want to rewind, stuff like that. And that's hard to do on Instagram because they changed it recently. So they're going to be posted on YouTube as well. This does mean that they're going to show vertically on YouTube, but that's okay. It's better to have a vertical video with the ability to pause than not being able to pause at all. So we are going to paint this really cute fall landscape. I love her. It's so fun. I can't wait to teach you how to paint it. The supplies you need are listed below the video, so make sure to check that out before starting. And then I also have my Amazon store there linked as well in case you need to get any supplies before starting the tutorial. I hope you enjoy it and have so much fun, and I'll see you later. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is grab your piece of 5x7 watercolor paper and a pencil, and we're going to quickly draw a little line here. Then we're going to have another kind of horseshoe shape right here. Okay, and then back here we're gonna have a line going down here, and then a line going up there. Okay, so this is gonna be our background, and we're gonna paint the foreground right now. So I'm gonna get my brush. This is a size 6 brush, and I'm gonna just get some really pale brown on my brush, and I'm gonna paint in my road. And then I'm going to get a bunch of orange on my brush. We're going to paint our trees. Little leaves right now. So I'm just going to start with little marks like this. Very cute. Now we're going to pause there and we're going to do our little background. So I'm going to get a light green color. You guys know I always make my green with Prussian blue and yellow ochre. And with that green, I'm going to paint this hill in back here. I'm just going to follow the line I did earlier. Okay. And then I'm going to grab some blue on the top on my brush. And at the top of this hill, I'm going to do a bunch of little like lumps. This is going to kind of look like trees in the distance, okay? So I'll have that along the top, and then I'm going to put a bit more of that blue into the hill there. I'm just going to kind of let that dry, and then we'll come back and add more details to that later. Then I'm going to go back into my green and fill in this section. And I'm going to get brown on my brush and going to use brown for part of it as well. It's going to be kind of a mixture of brown and green. And then still with the brown, I'm going to come to the bottom here and using really light pressure, I'm going to do some grass strokes. Like this, just at the bottom of the screen. Okay, just going back into my green and going over this part a little bit. Cute. Okay, again, going back into my green, I'm gonna add a little bit of green to this grass here. This important thing for that grass is that you just use really light pressure. That's key. Okay, now for this hill in the distance, I'm gonna get my yellow, and I'm gonna get like a yellow brownish color mixed with a tiny bit of green. And that's the color we want for this back hill. We want like a nice beigey color. And it's okay if it bleeds with the other stuff. We will fix that later. Plus, I like a little bit of that bleeding in my watercolors. Now, we're gonna wait for that to dry for a second before we do our tree trunks and everything. So while we wait for that to dry, we're gonna get our yellow, and we're gonna kind of make it the same color we just painted, but darker. So I want more brown in it and a little bit more green in it. And we're gonna do a bunch of that color. And we're gonna layer that color in right next to the orange tree. I want these colors to blend together. So I'm doing this while the orange tree is still wet, and all these colors are gonna blend together, and it's gonna create a really nice kind of fall gradient. So I'm just going and filling in this other space with this kind of olivey yellow color. And once I'm done with that color, I'm going to get a darker orange, reddish color. And with that more red color on my brush, I'm going to go into the wet orange paint, and I'm going to drop some of that darker orange / red color in there just to give it some variety, make it a bit more interesting. It's all going to bleed together and look really cool. I'm also going to get a bit of yellow on my brush and drop some yellow in there just for fun. We always like dropping random colors in and letting them do their thing. Once I've dropped that yellow in, I'm going to go back to my brown, and I'm going to add a little bit of orange to my brown as well. And I'm going to come down here to the little island and add a bit more brown to the bottom of it, just to give it some variety. Then I'm adding a bit more brown to the grass in the bottom left corner as well. Then I'm coming up to my field, and I'm doing almost kind of like some foliage. I don't know exactly what to call it, but some kind of like bushes that are on this hill that are this kind of brown color. I'm just using these short little brush strokes and adding some of that brown color on that hill as well. So once I'm done with these little brown brush strokes, I'm going to get a darker blue color on my brush. So basically a darker version of what we were using earlier on the hill. And we're going to take our darker blue and we're going to go back to the hill, and I'm just going to kind of go over those kind of lumpy brush strokes I did earlier. And going to darken that up because the paint has dried now, and pull that blue down a little bit more, just to give everything a little bit more dimension, and it's going to look beautiful. And I'm just going to kind of scrub that into the hill there, let it blend together. Looks beautiful. And then I'm going to take a bit of my darker green, and I'm going to make the bottom of that hill there a little bit darker, just add a bit of dimension there. And then I'm going to let that hill dry. Now we're going to work on our tree trunks because the background is dry. So I'm going to get a nice brown color, and we're going to start painting in our tree trunks. Now, your tree leaves do not have to be dry for you to paint in your tree trunks. It's actually kind of supposed to stay wet because when we paint in our tree trunks, like I'm doing right here, the upper branches are going to kind of blend in with the trees, and it's going to look really natural and beautiful. Everything's going to bleed together, and I love how it looks at the end. So trust the process. We have a big tree right here, and then I'm going to go in and do some little branches, like I said, they're going to blend in with the tree leaves, but that's okay. So I have my big tree on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side right here, I have a smaller tree that's kind of like a little crooked. It's really cute, and I'm going to paint a few branches coming out of it. You can kind of freestyle here if you want. It doesn't have to be identical to mine. You can add branches wherever you want or change the shape of the tree and just do your thing. But yeah, we're going to paint in these tree shapes and let the upper branches kind of blend into the leaves. Okay, so with that brown that I was using for my trees, I'm then also going to take that brown into this little island here, and I'm going to add a lot of like grass, shrubbery. I'm just using really light pressure and doing these thin brush strokes all along this little island and in between the trees. And then I'm also going to go over to the right hand side of my biggest tree and add another little thin tree trunk. And just kind of fill the rest of the island in. Now this is kind of where you want to pause eventually. Your trees will take a little while to dry. When they do dry, you want to come back in with a darker brown. So I added a bit of black to my brown, and I'm just going to darken up the trees a little bit so that they stand out from the background. So whenever your trees are dry, you're going to want to come in with a darker color and do that. Okay, so once we're done with that, we're going to let our trees dry. They take a little while to dry. So while it's doing that, I'm going to get a purple color. And this is where we're going to do the shadow on our road. So with my purple, I'm mostly going to fill in the bottom right-hand corner completely with purple. I am leaving a few white gaps. This is kind of like dappled light that the trees always leave when they're leaving a shadow on something. Because of their leaves, they have like little holes, so the shadow isn't like completely solid. So you're going to want to make sure you leave some of those gaps to give that kind of dappled light feeling, and it's so beautiful, so cute. And once you're done with your shadow, you're going to go get red on your brush. And I'm going to make sure my brush is really wet and full of water and get some red on my brush. And I'm going to come over my tree and tap that into the tree so that we get these nice like speckly, darker red spots in the tree. And then I'm going to just take the rest of that red paint and paint in some darker leaves. Looks so cute like that. Okay, once we're done with that, we're again going to come in and darken the trees once again. So I'm adding more black to my brown, and I'm going to use that kind of dark brown to darken the foliage on the island right here. I'm also going to add a little bit of darker brown to the bottom left-hand corner, and then I'm going to paint over some branches in the tree. Now that the leaves are a bit drier, I'm going to kind of darken them up a little bit and then darken up the trunks so they stand out from the background. So once everything gets a little bit drier, you can keep going over them. It takes a little while, but once everything's dry, you can finally start doing that, and it really like brings them to life and makes them pop. So I'm going to go over the biggest tree as well and give it a nice little touch of the darker brown, which will really help it come to life here. And then once you're done kind of going over your branches and trees, you're again going to take your black / dark brown, and we're going to put in a little kind of fence over on this field. So I'm just going to do 2 brush strokes, 2 vertical brush strokes. And then using really light pressure, I'm going to have a connecting line horizontally, following kind of like the line of the field. And it's just going to be going around that bend. So cute. I'm obsessed with that. I feel like that touch just adds so much to the painting, and I love it so much. So darling. Okay, and then the last thing we're gonna do is again go back into our tree with like a dark orange / red color, and we're just gonna add still some more darker areas into the tree just to again add some more variety and make it look really interesting. It looks really beautiful when you add this, so highly recommend doing that. And then the last thing I'm going to do after this is just darken up any areas of my trunks or branches that I feel like need to be darkened a little bit. And then that'll be the final step. I'm also adding a few little branches coming off the tree, just for a final touch. And then that's it.